biggest myth in golf is to keep your left arm straight throughout the entire golf swing. That's a great way to not swing well. Right? Watch Elena. She keeps her left arm straight the entire time. Right? That's what we do. I call that a right guard movement. With chipping, with players who tend to be really good at chipping tend to have very good club control. I didn't say face control, I said club control. Players who aren't so confident with chipping tend to try to control the face. They lean the shaft way forward. They use their wrists a lot because they know, look, the club hits the ball. We all know that. But they get really focused on trying to get the club to hit the ball. And so I find, and Tony, I'm going to accuse you a little bit of this, where you get, everyone thinks you're supposed to lean the shaft forward, and they're correct, but to a point. Because if you lean it too far forward, the back of the club starts coming off the ground and the leading edge gets closer to the ground, which makes it easier to stub it. Well, after a couple of stubs, what's our normal reaction? Well, I don't want to stub it anymore. So I'm going to start to do the opposite, which is this. Wherever the top of your club is where the bottom of the swing arc is going to be. We all agree that the club works on an arc. Slightly inclined this way and slightly at an angle. Make sense? And the bottom of the arc is where we want it. We want that to be either underneath the ball or maybe even past the ball. So if my handle is back when I hit the ball, the bottom of my arc is back here. So I'm going to catch the ball on the way up. I either hit it heavy or I top it. Pretty common. So if we can keep the handle, if I can get you to change focus on the head and move it up to your hands or the handle. So now if I do believe the handle should start a little bit forward, maybe just left of your zipper, and then you lean a little bit. But if I can keep the handle moving forward, so now when I get to here, the bottom of my arc is going to be up here so I can catch the ball first. So how you hold the club is important. We talked about some people like to use their full swing when they chip. I actually like to use my putting grip. So for a couple reasons. One is it puts the club more in my palms. When the club's in my palms, it's harder to twist the club and move my wrists. It actually forces me to hold the club a little tighter, which helps me reduce my wrists. So now I can get my body more involved and I can keep the handle moving through. Because I know if the handle goes, the head follows. And I know if the head goes, the handle doesn't follow. So just something to kind of play around with. Even if you use your regular grip, maybe try to get it more in your palms. So if you use your full swing grip, just let it go into your palms a little bit. And then I like to get the wrists this way. Right? So if my wrists go, if I point my wrists down, it puts them into this position, which actually also makes it harder to use them. Full swing, I want my wrists active. I want my hands low so I can hinge my wrists. Chipping, I don't. I want them a little bit more up, get the shaft more vertical. Getting the shaft more vertical also allows me to stand closer to the ball. Standing closer to the ball allows the path of my club to be a little bit straighter back and through. If you ever see somebody taking the club way inside, start betting them heavy. Because one of the death moves in chipping is that if the club gets behind you, you can't be a good chipper. It's really hard to recover from there. You're gonna start to see some funky stuff. But if they're going back this way, it just looks like the club can just kind of drop right down on the ball, doesn't it? And believe it or not, you can even hit a little behind it, even if the club's working this way, and still hit a decent shot because it's going to skip into the ball nicely. If you go like this, again, it's over. So getting close to the ball, some of the best chippers I've ever seen will stand like this to the ball. You're like, I can't chip from there. Well, I can chip it pretty good from there. I'm going to hit it solid. I'm not going to hit it fat. I might hit it a little thin, but I'm not going to hit behind it. As long as I hit the ball first, I have a good chance of getting it on the green, which is the goal. So I want you to try a couple of try your putter grip if you use a different putter grip. If not, it doesn't matter. But try getting the shaft vertical, close to the ball, little less lean. Don't lean it too much, and then make it a little more this way. If the club head goes out, you're okay, right? If it's out here, I can still drop it on the ball. I'll never forget when I was doing clinics with Jim McLean down in Florida. He would always talk about if he was betting for hundreds. There's a lot of pressure on him. His club was going out here because he knew he could hit the ball first and get it on the green. Here, lots of bad things happen. So let's hit a couple of chips. Get the club up. Chris pointed out in the last group, when you get it up like here, you actually remove the heel from the ground, so there's less turf interaction, less to get caught. It's also helpful. If you watch Chris set up to a chip, look where he gets. Okay, so Chris, you stay there. Okay, so Tony, you go step up in there now. You can use that club. Chris, jump out. You put your feet on that. Your toes right on there. A little closer than where you were, wasn't it? You can see him. He wants to back away. Yeah. He's got plenty of room, right? If you guys were watching him chip, you're like, well, he's close, but no, he looks a little bunched up. So grip down on the club a little bit. More? Yeah. Okay. Just kind of relax your shoulders. There. That looks like someone who's got a chance to hit a chip. I know it feels awkward, but you just got to get used to it. But go ahead and take it back now. Pretty good. Right? Went back a little straighter, a little easier to use. So play around with, how close can you stand to the ball? Can you stand? Obviously, the ball can't be here because you hit your foot. But how close can you get to it and still hit it? And then just kind of back away from that a little bit. Versus anybody who's out here, I'm pretty sure you're not going to hit a good one. You might every once in a while catch. You're like, well, I hit that one. It was really close last week. Yeah, well, what about the other 19 chips you hit that weren't so great? Right? We always remember the best. There you go. All right, so let's okay.
Everything rolls left here, so I tend to try and stay on the right side of the fairway. But that trap is obviously placed perfectly.
Perfect. Yeah. Deirdre, why do you go to the right side?
Because I feel like you're not straight on unless you're here.
Yeah.
I feel more straight on.
A little straighter. Yeah, a little different angle. Yeah, you want to look. It's the one time you have control over, where you are and the angle. And the angles are important. Just like Deirdre said, this side of the tee box to her eye makes it look straight, so it's an easier play. You want to use the tee box to your advantage. If you tend to miss it to the right, you'd rather go to the right side of the tee box and aim down the left center of the fairway. Especially if there's trouble on the right. Like I like to tee off on the side of trouble, so I'm trying to I'm trying to hit away from it. I could go over here and try to swing away from that, but that kind of worries me about the range and stuff on this hole. So sometimes it's better just to kind of stand back and take a look and say, okay, where do I want to go? I want to go left of the bunker. And what shot shape am I playing that day? Am I hitting it a little right or a little bit left? And then utilize that angle to your advantage. Like I think you were right. Going on this side, with the way you hit it, I think you just need to aim a little bit more left. The one place you typically don't want to aim is actually the middle of the fairway. You're like, what? Which is where you aim. And the reason is, unless you hit it straight, you got to give yourself some room to curve it. So like I like to play a little draw off the tee, so I'm going to go left third of the tee box and aim down the right third of the fairway and draw it in. If I hit it straight, I'm still in the fairway. If I happen to hit it right, then I'm in the rough at worst. But you can use that to your advantages, and you can do it on par threes too. Par threes, almost more important to utilize the angles a little bit. And mainly because it's just visually comforting. We have a little bit of a benefit that we didn't get it way up close, and there's not a huge mound in the front. So the first thing you want to just decide is what can I get over the hill, because we're a long way. We're probably 180 to the green, right? Look at that, 187. So then it's like, well, I can't get there, so now I want to use an easy club to get it out. And then you kind of go to your go-to club, whether it's your 6-7 or an 8 or whatever. What would you use, Jen?
I would back out of it. So if it's 190 to the middle, I'd hit probably like a 9 or even a pitching wedge to leave myself with 70, 80, 90 yard shot. Maybe a little more. I would back into it.
Yeah. Could divide by 2, right?
Yeah.
Like if we're 200, let's say it's 190, so half of 190 is 95. So if I hit a 95-yard shot, definitely have enough to get it over, and pretty easy to get out of the bunker. So, code 95 to 100. Maybe use a little bit more club because it's a bunker. You can't swing as hard. Mild, but the ball is definitely above our feet. And the mistake that I see most people make with this is they lean into the hill. And then what happens in the backswing is you end up falling back anyway because gravity's constant and pretty powerful. So all I'm going to say is when the ball's above or below your feet, just let your weight settle with the slope. So here my weight's going to settle into my heels, and then I'll just do a few practice swings so I can feel it. This tends to be a little bit easier. If I was going this way, now it's on my toes. Well, being on your toes makes it harder to move. It's a harder shot for most people. The ball also tends to curve with the slope. But for some people, it doesn't. Like for me, when I have the ball below my feet, I tend to pull it because I don't rotate through very well. So I end up closing the face a little bit. When I'm this way, I tend to be okay. I tend to hit the shot shape with the slope, which is a draw.
You're saying not to lean on your toes.
Correct.
Forward, you mean just stay with
yeah.
Keep the weight.
Yeah. Think of your body being perpendicular to the ground. If the ground was level, I'd go like this. Well, if the ground goes like this, my body's going to tilt back. It's just kind of the same thing here. Let it tilt back, and then go ahead and swing. If you lean into it, you're going to fall back anyway. You end up too far away from it, and that's when you top it or you can't turn very well. Okay? On the green reading, now what we're finding is the speed's important, isn't it? So when I first had you hit 10-foot putts, there was a reason. And typically on a 10-foot putt, the putter head should go back about 8 to 10 inches. You're like, well, how far is that? Well, the face of your putter is about 4 inches long. So if I'm set up here, if I go back 2 putter faces, for me, it's about the middle of my right foot. Again, or kind of my big toe. Everyone's different because of your stance width. But I know on a 10-foot putt that's level, so I'm going to putt to Catherine. It's about 10 feet, right? So for me, if I take the putter back, my putter face back to my big toe at my normal tempo, and remember we talked down there about either length or speed. Well, if I can keep the same tempo and then change my stroke length, so for a 10-foot putt I go back to about there, I'm going to get generally pretty good speed. And I know for every 10 feet I have to add 4 more inches. So my 10-foot putt's here, 4 more inches. My 20-foot putt goes to here, 4 more inches. My 30-foot putt goes to here. Based on, I'm trying to keep the same tempo. I'm trying to simplify it. So now I know there's my 10-foot stroke, there's my 20-foot stroke, there's my 30-foot stroke.
Downhill.
Level. You adjust for uphill and downhill, obviously. But at least I have a basis. So when you go play another course, you can go calibrate yourself. Go to 10 feet, do your 10-foot stroke from Sleepy, and if it's the same, then you know you're okay. If it's a little bit longer or shorter, the greens are faster or slower. But it gives you a way to calibrate for the speeds. Because different days, it rains. Today the greens are rolling at 10. It might rain, and tomorrow the greens are going to roll at 9. You got to calibrate. And we've also learned that the speed that you hit it affects how much it's going to break. through is just something very simple that you can do on your own with 2 shafts or 2 alignment rods, where you can make sure you're set up correctly and make sure you have the correct ball position. So with the grid here, you're going to start with one shaft right between your feet and your toes parallel to the other one. And then this is going to be strictly for alignment and ball position. So if I want to have the ball in the middle of my stance, I take 2 equal size steps and I get in the middle, like, wow, that feels really back. But if I look at it, it's like it's normal. So then you know your perception was off, because you're like, well, that feels really comfortable to me. But if you have a wedge, that's too far forward, or a short iron. Or some people, they're like this, they're like, you know, that's normal. If I do that, that's way too far up. Well, where's your ball supposed to be played? Well, in the middle. Like, oh. So go ahead and just kind of do this with me. Start with your feet close together. Yep. Go ahead and face. There you go. All right, and then just take 2 equal size steps, kind of like feet hip width apart, and just kind of get a visual of what middle of your stance is. When I look at ball position, I use the back of the ball as a reference. Does anybody use any other part of the ball, the middle or the front of the ball? Middle? Okay. Which is fine. I mean, we're off by just a little bit otherwise, but as long as you do it consistently. So now when I set up, I've got my 6 iron. So this will be this forward of center. That to me feels pretty good. Right? So when you guys get gun set up with whatever you have there, what do you guys have, short irons? 9. Yeah. Really 7 iron and shorter, the ball should be pretty much in the middle of your feet. Feet about hip width apart. And then it seems kind of basic, but these are the things that you need to do really well. So you can see your stance width. Now, the other thing I want you to do is let's check our balance. So just kind of rock toe to heel from your setup position. Just go toe to heel. Find the middle of your feet. You're like, well, I know where the middle of my feet are. But I promise you, if I put you on my force plate, my pressure plate, most of you will be on your toes. Because if you do something long enough, it becomes normal. You're like, well, that doesn't feel any different because that's the normal. Or when you said it felt really weird, right? That's just because it's different. So when someone tells me or Ellen that oh, the swing feels weird or something feels different, we love that. Weird is good because it means it's different. Different doesn't always have to mean bad either. And in a lot of cases, it means good. It's just you have to get used to it. Okay? So just kind of rock. Now lean right and left. Just kind of feel. And then go ahead and find your balance. One thing that we can do really well, just like a tour player, is we can be in balance. Right? If I can be in the middle of my feet, and I like the pressure, if you look at the foot, I like the pressure to be somewhere right about where the ball of your foot meets the arch of your foot. Middle of your arch is okay. I think it's a little bit too far back. Anything in the heel, anything towards the heel is definitely too far back, and anything beyond the ball of your foot is too far forward. Right? And Jen, you were a high-level gymnast. Is that pretty accurate for balance? Or right? Yeah, you would never be on your heels, right? And if you're on your toes, you probably don't have as much stability. Right? Golf's the same way. It's hard, if go ahead and lean on your toes for a sec. Go like way up there and try to move. It's actually not as easy. Unless you're a ballerina, but we're not trying to do ballerina stuff. Right. All right, so let's go ahead and step out. So to get into a sequence or a routine for your setup, the first thing I would love to have you do is put your hands on the club first. Find your grip. Make sure the face is square. Then I want you to go in. Now, the rod that's running east and west, this rod here, that's going to be your 12 and 6. So your guy's target's going to be over there. So that's 12 o'clock. 6 o'clock is going to be over there. So when you step in, you're going to step in at this. So I got 6, 7, 8, 9. Right? So I'm going to step in from the 6, 7, 8, 9 and set my club down behind the ball. And then I step across the line to find my posture. Okay, so if I did it, I'll do it lefty, so I'm going that way. Okay, so I'm going to swing the same way you are. So here's 12 o'clock, here's 6 o'clock. So when I come into the shot, I come in like this, right? So I'm behind the 9 o'clock line, set the club down, and then I step across and aim. Also rotary sport that we play with 2 legs. Right? If we played like this, we wouldn't sway very much, but we didn't have very good balance either. But this way, this is kind of, I just found it just kind of teaches you to turn, you know, because it's a circle, and if I move this, if I keep the hoop on the same plane and just kind of turn, am I moving right and left? Absolutely. But I'm rotating to the right, so I go on my right side, and I rotate to the left, and I go on my left side. Right? Again, if you do it wrong, the hoop doesn't, this would be not turning. The hoop doesn't turn. Turn it to the right, turn it to the left. The biggest myth in golf is to keep your left arm straight throughout the entire golf swing. That's a great way to not swing well. Right? Watch Elena. She keeps her left arm straight the entire time. Right? That's what we do. I call that a right guard movement. A right guard moment. Hopefully your deodorant works. Because when you go back, Ellen, put both hands on the club. What does her right arm do? It bends, right? So why wouldn't in the downswing, why wouldn't your left arm bend in the downswing? If she goes through to the same spot, keep going, right to there. Why would she keep her left arm straight when she goes through? It should bend. The golf swing there's symmetry. It's not symmetrical, but there's symmetry. What you do going back, you kind of want to do coming down. So when you're told to keep your left arm straight, it's partially true. I'm not saying it's completely incorrect. It's straight here, it's straight here. It'll probably bend at the top because of flexibility, and then it comes back down. It straightens again after you hit it, a little straight after and back, and then it has to bend again. If you want to hit it short and crooked, don't bend your left arm. Okay? If you want to hit it long and straight, let your left arm bend as you swing through. Like that guy.